Whenever we see something that we both like, that we read, we always yearn to see it in motion. So when it finally does, it's kind of like, oh, it's grown up.
You're tuned into Bite Sides to Nerdy with Amanda Teo. This is the podcast where we aim to serve you just a taste of the fandoms and franchises our guests are just simply obsessed with. Whether you're here to gush over your faves or simply looking for something new, we're just so excited to have you. So sit back, relax, and let's get nerdy. In the competitive world of comics and manga, only a handful of artists are able to produce their stories officially by top magazines and publishing companies. With so many stories, it can be easy to miss all these tales when you have a huge backlog of content to go through. In this episode, we're going to be mixing it up with today's guest.
Hi, my name is Rachel, and today we're going to be talking about some sleeper hits in Shonen Jump and two particular recommendations that I have today. And also just the overarching trends that are waning and gaining popularity within Shonen Jump. I read a lot of manga, even more so than I watch anime, so I'm very excited to talk about this topic. Shonen Jump is a weekly magazine full of comics, particularly targeted towards teenage boys, but everyone seems to pretty much enjoy it. It doesn't just have to be teenage boys, but a lot of the topics or themes in Shonen Jump tend to be geared towards them. So things like superheroes or like supernatural entities or exorcism and like guys just fighting each other. But there are some sleeper hits that you would think that is very much targeted towards someone else.
Now, usually we leave the series recommendations to the very end, but in this case, we're going to need a little bit of context.
The two that I am going to be talking about is firstly Akane-Banashi, and the second is Ichi the Witch. I highly recommend this manga if you like sports anime, particularly if you like things like Haikyuu. But Akane is actually not necessarily just sports. It actually is more of an arts-focused comic. It's focused on the traditional art of Rakugo. And if we were to kind of translate Rakugo to the Western world, it's almost like stand-up comedy or improv show. They use classic stories and put a twist to it. Akane-Banashi follows this 16-year-old girl who tries to fulfill her father's dream of becoming a Rakugo star. Basically like showing the man who fired or demoted her dad and forced her dad to leave the whole career indefinitely. It's almost slice of life. It's a coming of age story. It's really funny. However, it really pulls at your heartstrings. The characters are very genuine and well developed because even though it focuses on Akane herself, the side characters are very full and rich. The way that they interact with Akane is quite endearing. A lot of them are like older brothers and etc. in her life, and enriches more of her own art and her own stories when she performs that. Similarly to like Haikyuu, when Akane wins this competition or when she has the crowd roaring in laughter, it's so satisfying. Ichi the Witch follows this boy. He lives in the mountain all alone. He grew up basically a feral child, and he develops really keen hunting skills. And in this world, it is only really particularly women and girls that have aptitude towards magic. That's why they only have witches. And the job of a witch is to hunt down things called magics, legends, myths, magical creatures, basically. However, Ichi somehow conquers or defeats this really strong magic despite being a man. So he becomes the first boy witch. He basically falls in love with magic and the idea of like hunting magics or like these magical creatures. The leading trio, their dynamics are really great. It's not necessarily just like Naruto, but there's always like stereotype. There's like the more serious person, the aloof person, or the really anxious and nervous person. And they do those stereotypes so well. And the art is very appealing.
But wait, what exactly is a sleeper hit? And what determines it?
In my own terms, like a sleeper hit is basically something that either doesn't have an anime adaptation just yet, or their readership is quite low in comparison to the more popular comics within Shonen Jump. It's very much like a small niche of people are starting to talk about it versus like everybody on Twitter or like social media is actually engaging with the content. A lot of the times, honestly, whenever one of these series or like these comics from Shonen Jump gets an anime adaptation, that's when people actually really start to engage with the content. As of now, the conversations online for Akane and Ichi the Witch are quite niche. A lot of the people are just like, I'm very excited about this series, or they already like the specific niche topic that these two manga portray. So it's mostly just social media. If I don't really see a lot of talk or discussions or whatever, I just know it's going to be something that a lot of people ignore. But also, there's also factors in how either the art is approachable or even down to the protagonist even, especially for something like Akane, right? The protagonist is a teenage girl who becomes like a young adult throughout the series. So sometimes it's just not appealing for the actual majority readership of Shonen Jump. In my history of reading manga, just broadly, I'm not sure if you also know this, but usually when a new manga is released or debuted, there's a lifetime for a manga until it actually, quote unquote, succeeds in the magazine. So if within 100 chapters, it doesn't get any sort of popularity, either just solely in Japan or like in a niche community, and it doesn't go past 100 chapters, it's basically considered dead. You can already expect the next 10, 20 chapters for it to just start to wrap up and end the series there. It is a shame. Whenever things like that kind of like fail or get cut early, it's always a pleasure to see like either the writer or the artist, or if they're the same person, come back with a whole new series. I mean, it's the same thing for the Horikoshi, the man, the legend who made My Hero Academia. He's had like 2 to 3 smaller projects before My Hero Academia. The artist for Ichi the Witch basically had her come back with this series from her prior series. So it's always really nice to see familiar names, at least.
When a mangaka or writer finally gets their adaptions, you can't help but feel that there is a sense of pride in that achievement. But what about the fans?
It feels like I'm vindicated, like, yeah, I totally have good taste. But this is not exactly my experience, but it's a recent experience. My husband, Jalen, he loved Sakamoto Days. He has been following it since day one, and he loves the whole series. It used to be like a sleeper hit, but now it's quite popular now. For him, he feels quite satisfied and really happy that it's finally gotten an anime adaptation. Whenever we see something that we both like, that we read, we always yearn to see it in motion. So when it finally does, it's kind of like, oh, it's grown up. I do feel like a proud parent. And similarly with like, obviously this is a very popular series like Dandadan. The way that Studio Saru has animated Dandadan and did it justice, it really feels great.
Now that you're hooked and ready to give Akane-Banashi and Ichi the Witch a chance, what's Rachel's advice?
I have the Shonen Jump app on my phone, and it's incredibly convenient to just pay like a $2 subscription per month and then be able to read a lot of chapters as I can per day. Because I think the limit is like 100 chapters, and I can usually finish 100 in a day, which is kind of insane, not gonna lie. It's just really convenient to read it all online. And I wanted a space where I wasn't gonna rely on like a website that might get taken down. Buying physicals is great. I do it all the time. It's just that I have limited space as well. So I am very limited to like what I collect. It just came at the right time. Honestly, Shonen Jump app came at like, I think 2020, and everybody was indoors, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'll just like read as much manga as I want. It was just the necessity to find a reliable place to read some of the manga that I wanted to read. I do read from other magazines as well, but Shonen Jump is like my tried and true, my baseline.
And if you want to continue the conversation,
you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is yellowb, yellow without the W, and 2 underscores and B. Or if you would like to follow me on Twitter, my user is shutitrach, so shut RACH, and we can talk about manga and anime there.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Bite Sized and Nerdy with Amanda Teo. Did you enjoy your happy helping of fun facts? Or Do our guests have info that they need to retract? Make sure to let us know down in the comments. In the meantime, thanks for dropping by, and we can't wait to see you next time.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you didn't know, Bite Size and Nerdy is one of our pilot podcast series in a documentary style focused on interviewing fans and their obsessions. If you're interested in hearing more, be sure to like and subscribe to see all of our future projects. In the meantime, we will be uploading a new podcast every Friday at 12 p.m. PDT. So until then, bye-bye!